Now, I'm going to come with a story that's going to be about thinking a little bit differently about things, a bit differently about the future where we're going into, this future that's driven by technology. You know, it's amazing the transformations we have to go through in our lives. I mean, from being born. What an amazing experience, transformation that was. One we'll never remember. Our parents remember that one. You know, to growing up as a child with all our flaws and insecurities, to becoming an adult and becoming a parent. What a transformation that was. To becoming a grandparent, ultimately to die and go back to where we came. The ultimate of transformations. One we'll never remember. Or at least I think not. But you know the good news is that we'll all get the chance to find out. You know, but it's not just in our lives, also in our work. I mean, most of us here didn't start in this industry. We came here as pioneers. Me, for example, I started 24 years ago as a biologist, studying bacteria, viruses, and cancers, literally pulling blood out of people's arms, looking for a virus called HIV, developing a vaccine against that virus, ultimately getting a PhD in biotechnology. But 12 years ago, I started to focus my attention on technology because I realized something. Our biologies don't change. Not in our lifetimes. We die too quickly. Technology, that's changing at a pace faster than we can even measure now. And that is a transformation we are all going to have to deal with, not just in our work, but at home and in our lives. So let me take you back 2 decades. 1997, the year before Google was born. A very remarkable year. It gave rise to the biggest organization on the planet today, arguably the most successful. Most of us have even licked their products. Because after all, that was Steve Jobs' ambition, wasn't it? For us to lick his products. Just like we lick our appendages. Because that's what they've kind of become. An appendage, a second brain. And when he came back to Apple, the company he founded and was fired from 12 years earlier, he launched a Think Different campaign. Now, you've got to remember, this was a pivotal moment in human history. The rise of the internet, the rise of connectivity, this connection machine that connects things, disrespects borders. And he launched a Think Different campaign because he knew that nothing remarkable in this world comes from following the status quo. This was really a campaign about us, about the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the pioneers that push the human race forward. We wrote books about them, we made movies about them, they inspired us. We even let them lead us. But don't be fooled, these crazy ones, they're all around us, maybe even in this room. You know, as we move from a world of products to services, we're going to need you to think different. As we move from a world of ownership to access, we're going to need you to think different. And as we move from a world of scarcity into a world of abundance, we're going to need you to think different. Because that's all technology does. It turns scarce resources into abundant ones. A few examples. Who here uses Spotify? Let's have a show of hands. Well, everybody now. You see, we used to buy a cassette, a CD, an MP3, and now we access 42 million songs for the price of a cup of coffee. And mobility, we used to own our means of transportation, but now, in hyper-connected cities, we access mobility. It's technology that gets us from A to B, Lyft and Uber. And energy, none of this would ever work without energy, but did you know there's enough energy that hits the Earth's surface in 1 hour to power global energy needs for a whole year? The problem isn't energy, there's plenty of energy around. The problem is access to energy. And technologies like solar panels solve for this. So why did Steve Jobs never give these things to his kids? And why did they reintroduce the black apple? The very apple that Steve Jobs introduced in 1998, right at the heart of the Think Different campaign. The forbidden fruit, the path to sin, gets you wanting more. And look at what comes in between. 1997. Can anyone know what happened in 2007, sorry? The launch of the iPhone, the shiniest apple of them all. And then at the height of the mobile era in 2015, they brought back the black apple. Why did they do that? Why black? Well, I'll leave that one up to your imagination. And why does technology disrespect borders so much? The borders we spent thousands of years building up to protect culture, protect values, protect beliefs. Technology only respects them to the amount of regulation we impose upon it, or the rules that you code into it. Look at the US and the UK, for example, hyper-connecting themselves over the last 2 decades, and what are they doing now? Well, they're pulling back. They're trying to go back to the way it used to be. Trump, Brexit. We look over the other side, China, who have been protecting themselves from this connection machine. They've understood the dangers of hyperconnection from the beginning. And what are they doing now? Well, they see opportunity to expand beyond their borders through technology. Technologies like Alibaba. Technology is wonderful at bringing us closer together, but the information that flows through it often pulls us further apart. Take a look at this piece of paper, for example. Did you know that this simple piece of paper represents the biggest technological innovation known to mankind since the rise of the internet? This represents the printing press. Johannes Gutenberg, over 500 years ago. This represents our ability to remember past our limited minds. We forget. It solves a problem. We can now write it down. And we can communicate afar, beyond our direct surroundings, cross borders. We can communicate through generations, through books. But even this piece of paper now is becoming obsolete. We're in a digital era. We email, we chat, we use Messenger. Our invoicing systems, contractual systems are becoming digitized. Our products and services are becoming digitized. We call this the digital transformation. Information enabling our organizations, giving momentum and speed to information, which gives it value, just like any currency. The quicker it moves, the more valuable it becomes, exchanging hands in a supply and demand ecosystem. This piece of paper, see, we're focusing on the wrong thing. Because it's never been about the technology, has it? It's been about the information that this piece of paper can transmit. See what happens when you focus on the wrong thing? It's not about the technology. It's about what technology can enable. And that is the movement of information. Information will flow to the path of least resistance because the faster it moves, the more valuable it becomes. And that's why we're going into things like blockchain, decentralized distributed ledgers. It gives speed to information. But in this piece of paper is the key to technology. And for that, I'm going to need 2 volunteers. 2 brave pioneers to come up with me on stage. A couple of people that can take some arrows, put themselves on the line. Preferably a man and a woman. Let's keep this gender diverse. Any hands? Yeah, we got one here. Very good. Anyone else? Well, we can have a third one if you like. Come on. 2 guys. Any women would like to come up? Yeah, come on. All right. I'll give you this piece of paper.
Thanks.
And so for you, I want you to stand over here.
Yeah.
And I want you to build a paper airplane. And I want you to see just how far it gets down the room. If you try and get it up there by the sound people.
Yeah? Do they agree with that?
Do you agree?
Okay.
Cool. Okay, let's see how you go. For you 2, I want you to fold this piece of paper. Now, the moon's up here. I want everyone here to think about how many times would we have to fold this piece of paper in half exactly, in half every time. For the thickness of this piece of paper, its thickness that builds up to reach the moon, 384,000 kilometers away. The paper is 0.1 millimeters thick. So while they're folding, count while you're folding. 2, 3, 1, 4. Think of a number. How many times would they have to fold this for the thickness of the piece of paper to reach the moon? How are you going with your paper airplane? I'm going pretty good. Okay. It'll be the grand finale in a second. You can get to throw it. How are we going?
I think I'm at 6.
6? 6? I'm at 6 as well. You can get to 7, but you got to be really strong.
Maybe bigger
some people
paper.
use their foot. Yeah, you can. Yeah, thinner paper. You can get it. All right, we got to 6. Cool, awesome. That's all I needed you for.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A hand for our brave pioneers. Okay, let's have a look. How far did it go? How far can it go?
Yeah.
Whee! Oh, now, not bad, not bad. Round of applause. Thank you. Okay, the paper airplane was just for fun. So, you see, we run out of resources. But technology solves for that, remember? Technology solves for scarcity. It creates abundance. So with technology, you can keep folding. So let's have a look at some math. Because at 14 times, you reach the height of a small child. At 25 times, you cross the finish line of a marathon. At 30 times, you hit a satellite. And at 42 times, you land on the moon. Who here got pretty close? Who here was way off? Who here didn't think about it? Quite a few, yeah. It's amazing how many people don't actually think about it. But you see, at 50 times, you reach the sun. And at 100 times, you cross the entire observable universe of 46 billion light years. Just 100 folds of this piece of paper. Any of you have kids? Yeah, I got 3. That's a transformation. And remember the number? When they started counting, there were 3 or 4. The number that they couldn't get beyond, the biggest imaginable number. In Dutch, it's 100. 100. They couldn't think past that. Well, maybe they were just born thinking exponentially. Maybe they were born thinking big, and maybe we pulled them back into this human linear age that we live in. Because you see, anything to the power of 100 is infinity to human comprehension. Has anyone Googled what Google means? It's a number. It's a misspelling. You know, they misspelled their own company name. That's how nerdy the founders were. It actually represents a number. It's goggle. And the number is simply 10 to the power of 100. You see, the founders were onto something. From the beginning, they knew that when you apply technology to try and solve problems, you give things exponential nature. And when you give things exponential nature, the opportunities are limitless. Exponential growth. What does it mean? You know, nothing in life grows exponentially forever. I'm a biologist. We call those viruses, bacteria, and cancers. They grow exponentially until they consume all of their resources, produce so much waste that they inhibit their own growth. You see, the exponential curve is simply the first half of a bell curve. Everything in life grows, matures, and decays. You grow when you're relevant, you decay when you're irrelevant. And the key behind growth is the ability to solve problems. But at one point, you become so big, you lose your ability to solve problems fast enough. And great organizations continue to solve these problems through an S-curve, by reinventing themselves, by transforming. And they regain their ability to solve these problems at a pace they once had. You know, the only constant here is change. We've heard that one before many times. And what does technology do? It accelerates the pace of change. It's crucial, if you want to exist for a long period of time, as the ecosystem is changing, that you're able to reinvent yourself, to transform. And in this transformation phase, we call this a lag phase. Now, there's a term in biology for the lag phase, which I'm going to share with you in a second. But in this lag phase, it's essential that you find a way. And what is entrepreneurship? The definition of entrepreneurship, there are many of them. My definition is simply someone who finds a way, often in high risk and uncertainty. When we look at Google and we Google what lag phase means, it's a term used in bacteriology, in virology. It's when organisms lose their ability to grow in their environment and they must mutate, they must change something so that they can regain this growth phase, which is called a logarithmic growth here, consume nutrients, and once again produce waste until the next round of lag phase comes. Now, we only need to adapt a few things in this paragraph to apply to business. Bacteria for organization, logarithmic for exponential, nutrients for resources, and how do we address waste within our organizations? Through methodologies like Kaizen and Lean. We eliminate waste through these methodologies because waste is toxic to any growing organization, just like it's toxic to any growing bacterial culture. When you actually zoom out, you realize that these S-shaped innovation curves actually repeat themselves over and over again as the ecosystem keeps changing. There are periods of growth and there are periods of lag. And where disruptive innovators come in is really in these lag phase, where the incumbents or the organizations lose their ability to solve problems, so you have disruptive innovators come in and find a way how to solve the industry's problems. These are the pioneers that catalyze new industries, so new industries take off again, often to have the incumbents come in, settle, and take the land, often through mergers and acquisitions. So it's essential that we enable entrepreneurs and pioneers within organizations because they're the ones that are able to reinvent you. Just like this guy down here, Elon Musk. Now, I know he's not very popular these days, but you see, that's what happens when you challenge the status quo. The harder you challenge that status quo, the more painful it becomes, because one rule that's never going to change in our lifetime is pioneers take the arrows, settlers take the land. And the harder you challenge that status quo, the deeper those arrows get. You start to do weird things after a while. But you know, while Elon Musk is reinventing mobility with Tesla, who here has a Tesla? A few people? Who here would like a Tesla? Yeah? Who here wouldn't be found dead in a Tesla? Okay, interesting. You know, reinventing mobility with Tesla, SpaceX, Hyperloop, and the Boring Company. Anyone heard of the Boring Company? Trying to solve the traffic problems in our cities by just simply going under the cities. And reinventing energy with gigafactories and solar city. Cities made completely of solar panels. And even challenging what it means to be human with Neuralink, connecting our brains to the internet, make us smarter. The best minds of our generation are trying to figure out how to get people to click more ads. We've heard this quote before, right? It's Jeff Hammerbacher from our big blue friend. You know, he left the company to go and use his programming skills to try and solve cancer. But it's a quote also used often by Elon Musk. And this, I brought this quote in because, for me, it represents something very meaningful. We've come into a digital era where we're going after the transactions, forgetting about the relationship. The biggest opportunity as we go deeper and deeper into this digital era will be to actually create emotional connections with people and using technology and data to that better at scale. Because what is it that these pioneers, these innovators do, from Steve Jobs to Elon Musk? They paint a vision of the future. They get us excited. They bring us together as people. They make us emotional about a possible future out there. Because emotional connection is key. Feelings give rise to emotions. And emotions is what makes memories stick. And unless you can get people to remember you, then you don't exist. You know, I've got this little saying. People don't remember what you say. They won't even remember what you do. People remember how you made them feel, because feelings give rise to emotions, and emotions are what makes memories stick. The biggest opportunity is going to be going from a transactional ecosystem to a relational ecosystem, because from a healthy relationship, you can create abundant transactions. And that's why 2.5 years ago, I built a model called Meaningful Connections. It's really a model on how to build relationships through technology. I'm writing a book on it. It's not out yet. I'm working on a strategic framework. Right now, this is the high level. The model goes quite deep. Been working on this for quite some time, 3 media brands. On the one side, it's the whole thing summarized in one sentence. The World Wide Web are linked devices that generate data. Why do we call it IoT? Because there are a lot of devices. A lot of things connected to the internet. Why big data? Because there's a lot of data. And when you can connect that in meaningful ways, you can generate insights that allows you to make decisions. Decisions on how to build better relationships. Because when you think about it, these big tech giants, this is the path they follow. On the other side, it's how we use it. And this really describes a 4-step process on how to build customer happiness. From personalization to building experiences, to empowering people by solving their problems, to generating value by managing expectations. So for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about these 4 steps. You know, Google came onto the scene very early. They understood that information is key to our decision making. So what did they do? They collected the world's information and made it universally accessible and useful. What is that? Do you know what I said? What does it mean? Well, it's a mission statement. It's a mission statement on day 1, and it's still the mission statement today. So what did they do? They collected the world's information, they put up a search bar, and they put that information behind it. And we went there and we tell them what we wanted. You know, advertising is about getting people's attention, because unless you have someone's attention, you can't tell them a story. Marketing is about turning needs into wants. And for that, we tell stories. To have someone want it from me over the other guy. It's that simple. So Google invented the holy grail of marketing, because we went there and we told them what we wanted. And in that moment, they knew our intent, and in that moment, they can deliver highly meaningful advertising. And the first step is personalization, because we all need and want different things. How do I give you the right answer, or you the right answer? Personalization, understanding people through technology by using data. And that's about now understanding, well, what data is available to me, and how can I use that data in order to understand the needs and wants of the individual I'm dealing with. Start to build a relationship with them. Act in their best interest, which is how you build trust. Trust is simply built by acting in the other person's best interest. Google were remarkable in 1998. Everyone was trying to get people to come to them so that they can generate ad impressions and views and keep people on their platform. And Google just did the opposite. They just sent people away. Just like you open a cage for a bird and let it fly away. You act in their best interest. That's what developed trust. Experience. Experience is all about earning attention. Because we pay. Remember at school, the teachers, pay attention? And at home, our parents, pay attention. If you want to do well in this life, pay attention. We're paying attention now. Except we're paying it to the big tech companies. We're paying it through technology. We're paying it through our screens. And they're getting very rich, of course, because in our attention is our behavior, and in our behavior is our data. It's that simple. And so how do you earn someone's attention in this coming ecosystem? It's highly digitalized. Well, you merge the physical and the digital. You create these remarkable experiences that you can measure and improve. And the poster child for this is Amazon. Why did they buy Whole Foods last year? What was that? I mean, they're a pure player. They're an e-commerce online. It's to understand how we live our lives on the ground, how we shop, what are our behavior on the ground when we're disconnected from technology, and merging that data with the digital data, and really understanding how we live our lives. I mean, just going shopping at Whole Foods, I mean, if I'm buying nappies, what size are they? Because the size of the nappy says a lot about what's going on at home. Generates so many insights from that. And then what do? They build Amazon Go stores. Has anyone heard of those? Most of us have now, I think. Still pioneering, but why are they doing this? Well, they're trying to remove the friction out of retail. You know, they call this just walk out technology. You just walk in, you take what you want, and you walk out. Very hard to shoplift in that environment, unless you can steal someone's identity. And what is Uber? You click a button, a car pulls up, you step in, you have a pleasant conversation, and you just walk out. Removing the friction out of transportation. Amazon's trying to remove the friction out of retail. And then Amazon Fresh, it's been around for a while. What are they trying to do here? Control the experience. Control the touch points we have with their customers. Really about owning all of the touch points for this connected journey we talk about. Not leaving it up to some third party to screw it up at the last minute. They want control. They want to own all of the touch points. And then they go in and slap Alexa over the top. The smartification of everything, better experiences, better services, more data, more insights, and highly, highly personalized. Empowerment. Empowerment is all about solving problems. Because life is just one big problem. That we're all going to die someday. And we keep trying to solve this problem every day. But when you break this down, it actually breaks down into millions of little problems. And that's where tech startups are coming in and understanding by solving all these little tiny little problems through technology, you give people meaning. And they'll keep coming back. So all of these apps we install on our phones, this, by the way, an iPhone is a behavioral space. It's a reflection of me. When you look into it, it makes me better, until it doesn't anymore when I use it too much. But all the apps you put on here are solving at least one problem for you. And when they don't, you take them off. So it's about understanding, this is not about building products anymore. It's about solving problems and understanding what products do I need? What services do I need to solve these problems at their core? That's what made the iPhone so successful. It's a behavioral space that you have control over. You build this. It's your choice. Oh, sorry. Value is the next step. Value is really about managing expectations, because in a relationship context, it's all about expectations. Over-deliver on somebody's expectations, they're going to see value. Under-deliver, and they're going to feel shortchanged, and they're going to complain. Do that often enough, and they're going to flirt with your competitors, with disruptive innovators. They're going to try and find a better deal. Zappos, purchased by Amazon in 2009, launched in 1999, the first retailer to sell shoes online. They were obsessed about customer happiness. They even built a strategy around it. Under promise, over deliver. That is a strategy on how to make people happy, literally. So what did they do in 1999 when you ordered those shoes through the internet? You were still dialing up, remember, at the time. Well, they told you you'd have those shoes in 5 days. But they didn't come in 5 days. They came the next day or the day after. And they didn't just come alone. They came with a box of chocolates, a bunch of flowers, and a letter that said, thank you. We appreciate your business. You're important to us. That made you feel appreciated and important. So guess where you went when you had to buy those next pair of shoes? Straight back to Zappos. That's what made them successful. They really understood that customer happiness is all about managing expectations. And you don't want to put everything out there, otherwise you're going to create a problem for yourself by raising the bar too quickly. I have plenty of stories I can tell, but we're getting towards the end. So I'm going to go to the next slide and talk to you about one thing you could do differently. The secret to getting anything you want in life is to line up what you want with what the other person wants. And for that, you need to know what you want, and you need to know what the other person wants. And the best way to find that out is simply to ask. And that's where the problem is that we're afraid about what other people are going to think of us. This is what stops us. This is what creates the fear. So for me, I came across this little rule, and it changed my life completely. It's the 18-40-60 rule. Anyone heard of it? So it goes something like this. At 18 years old, all you care about is what other people think of you. When you turn 40, you don't care about what anybody thinks of you. And when you get to your 60s, you realize no one's been thinking of you at all. You see, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. What's important is what you think of yourself. And search engines like Google and Bing and Ask.com have built a model around this very simple concept. They simply asked you, and you went and told them. And you know the kick about it is that they can't get it right. Google keeps getting it wrong. They can't give you the right answer. They keep screwing it up time and time and time again. That I'm feeling lucky button they launched 27th of September 1998 is their audacious statement to say one day we're going to get it right. One day we're going to give you that answer to you directly, because we're not going to know you so well that we're going to know the answer. And until that day, we're going to make the most mistakes of any company on this planet. But every time they make a mistake, they learn. There's no right or wrong. There's just learning. You know, kids learn so quickly because they're prepared to fail. So I say, just play and learn like a kid. And that's exactly what Google did, didn't they? So what's the one thing I could leave you with? The one thing. One quote. Well, it would be this one. It was a quote given to me by the person who trained me on how to be a speaker. It was only a few months ago. And he gave me this quote: be so good they can't ignore you. Now, this isn't meant to come over in any arrogant way. I know we're in Holland here. This is a quote more designed for America. I know we're in Holland. This quote is about getting the best version of you. As an organization, towards your partners, towards your customers, towards your shareholders, towards your employees, be so good they can't ignore you. But also as teams within organizations, needing the resources that you need in order to have the impact that you want to have. Be so good they can't ignore you. And as individuals, because that's where it all starts, with you. Now, I know most of you aren't going to do anything about this right now. Your time hasn't come yet. Or maybe this is just a reminder of what once was. But I can guarantee you one thing. There's at least one person in this room that's absolutely going to do something about it. And right now I'm talking to you. Whoever you are, be so good they can't ignore you. Thank you.